Taiwan.
Taiwan.
Is the U.S. policy still ambiguous? Is it clear? The president, of course, said there's no change today, but there was, in light of his remarks over the weekend, can you say what the U.S. policy is? Will the U.S. militarily defend Taiwan in case of an invasion?
As you heard from the president today, as you heard from the president the other day in Tokyo, when President Biden said, and I quote, "Our policy towards Taiwan has not changed at all. We remain committed to supporting the peace and stability across the Taiwan Straits and ensuring there is no unilateral change to the status quo." That is where we were then. That is where we are today, as you heard the president say again today. What the president said is that our policy has not changed. He reiterated that our One China policy and our commitment to peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait, of course, remains. He also reiterated our commitment under the Taiwan Relations Act to provide Taiwan with the military means to defend itself. In short, there has been no change.
But the fact that he's saying that the U.S. would defend Taiwan, do you think that the Taiwanese should feel more reassured than they were before about the possibility of a U.S. military defense?
The Taiwanese should feel reassured that we will continue to comply with and to fully satisfy our commitments under the Taiwan Relations Act, that we will do so consistent with our One China policy and the other documents, including the 3 joint communiques and the 6 assurances.
Let me follow up on one point there. You tweeted just a couple days prior to this that Beijing is misrepresenting the U.S. position on One China, on the One China principle. The president himself said that we agree with on One China. Could you state what that means? Is there any inconsistency there? Does the United States agree with the Chinese interpretation of it?
Well, the Chinese, the PRC, has frequently attempted to misrepresent our policy in their briefings and statements from senior PRC officials. Let me just give you one example of that. The English version of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs readout of the call between our National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, and Wang Zhichi on May 18th incorrectly stated that, quote, "The U.S. pursues the One China principle." Beijing's, and this is important, One China principle is not the same as our One China policy. In a May 12th press briefing, the PRC spokesperson stated that we had made a quote-unquote commitment to uphold the One China principle. That is also not correct. We are committed to upholding our One China policy, which again is guided by the Taiwan Relations Act, the 3 U.S. joint China communiques, and the 6 assurances. The PRC statements attempt to mischaracterize our position and our policy. Our long-standing bipartisan One China policy has not changed. These are policy issues of enormous sensitivity, and we are, I think, appropriately careful and precise with our language. And we urge the PRC to cease its mischaracterization of U.S. policy and statements from senior U.S. officials. Yes.
Well, the problem with that is, though, that you're quibbling with the word principle instead of policy.
It is. It has a different meaning. We stand by our One China policy.
So what's your understanding of the difference between One China principle and One China policy?
We have a One China policy. That, as we said.
What's the difference between that and One China principle?
We have heard from the PRC that there are so-called commitments under what they call the One China principle that are distinct from our One China policy. And again, we are having this conversation now because for us is important to underscore that we comply with, we abide by our One China policy. It is a policy that, as we have said, is guided by the Taiwan Relations Act, the 3 U.S.-China joint communiques, and the 6 assurances.
Well, maybe you could just change the name of policy to principle without changing what's in it, and then you could all be happy.
I'll take that suggestion on board.
From
Yes,
Taiwan.
sure.
And, I understand that you guys, in the aftermath, President's aide and he himself said the policy hasn't changed, but he also did say yes to a question which was asked whether the United States would be willing to get involved militarily. I'm sure you guys have internal talks about this, and since he did say yes, Does that mean Washington would be willing to commit troops to battle in defense of Taiwan?
The president was not announcing any change in our policy. The president actually,
But the question was
and-
like very, very clear, and he did say yes.
Well,
And
but-
this is not the first time that
but you are also omitting what he said when he started the question. I don't want to embarrass you. I know you walked in a couple minutes late, but I did start by
There
saying
was no 2-minute warning.
I did start by saying that the president, when he was asked, very clearly stated, and I quote, "Our policy towards Taiwan has not changed at all. We remain committed to supporting the peace and stability across the Taiwan Straits and ensuring that there is no unilateral change to the status quo." He went on to say, "We've made a commitment. We support the One China policy. We support all that we've done in the past to ensure that Taiwan has what it needs to defend itself.
Okay.
That is consistent with the Taiwan Relations Act."
I'm gonna join the group of people who can't see how those two things are compatible together. But just on this China-Russia exercise, I'm just wondering if this is the kind of action for United States that requires a response from you and allies, perhaps beyond rhetoric. And if that's the case, what kind of response would that be?
So to your question, Humaira, the PRC and Russia did conduct a joint military patrol involving their strategic bombers on May 24th. The patrol, as we understand it, traversed the Sea of Japan and continued through the East China Sea and the Philippine Sea. This exercise was likely planned well in advance by both countries, and Beijing's decision to cooperate with Moscow in this way, amid Russia's further invasion of Ukraine and the Kremlin's dangerous nuclear rhetoric, demonstrates the quote-unquote no-limits partnerships that they talked about in their joint communique is quite alive and well. And the president's, on the other hand, the president's successful visit to the ROK and Japan, where he met with our treaty allies on a bilateral basis, where he also convened the Quad for the fourth time during this administration, coupled with the launch of discussions on IPEF, the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, that demonstrates a stark contrast to what we've seen from Russia and China. It demonstrates our commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific region. That was at the heart of the president's visit to Japan, to the Republic of Korea. And you also heard from the president and senior officials while there more about our long-standing commitment to the defense of those allies, including Japan and the ROK. We consistently made the point that attempts to intimidate U.S. allies and partners will only strengthen our collective resolve. Of course, we've discussed and worked very closely with Japan, with the ROK on matters of defense and deterrence. Barbara.
Staying on China, the BBC has a report out today on Xinjiang, which is based on data from police computers in the region, and they lays out in meticulous detail the way police have been targeting any expression of Uyghur identity or culture, and also evidence that the chain of command runs all the way up to Xi Jinping. So I wanted to ask, first of all, does the State Department have any reaction to the information in the report?
So I did happen to see that report. We are appalled by the reports and the jarring images of the PRC's internment camps in Xinjiang from 2018, those reports that are and those images that are being shared online. Unfortunately, the PRC's genocide and crimes against humanity against predominantly Muslim Uyghurs and Muslims of other ethnic and religious minority groups remains ongoing in Xinjiang. And this new reporting further adds to an already damning body of evidence of the PRC's atrocities in Xinjiang, including evidence previously disclosed in earlier publicly reporting, seen in satellite imagery and gathered via witness testimony from survivors and escapees of the internment and forced labor camps. Despite increasing public awareness and strong calls for accountability, the PRC government continues to deny any wrongdoing. We are deeply concerned by the PRC's failure to acknowledge and to stop these atrocities and to transparently address the chorus of concerns raised by the international community. And we'll continue to work with our partners and our allies to promote accountability for those responsible for these atrocities. We have and we continue to call on the PRC to immediately release all those arbitrarily detained people, to abolish the internment camps, to end mass detention, torture, forced sterilization, and the use of forced labor.
And does the State Department assess that the chain of command on Uyghur repression runs directly up to the president?
I don't want to offer a tactical assessment of that, but I will just say, in a system like the PRCs, it would be very difficult to imagine that a systemic effort to suppress, to detain, to conduct a campaign of genocide and crimes against humanity would not have the blessing, would not have the approval of the highest levels of the PRC government.
Can I follow up on,
Sure.
on this? This of course happens as the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights is in China. Do you think this adds any complications to her visit? Do you think that she should be looking specifically at this? Are you at all optimistic that she'll get more answers?
We discussed this on Friday, and I then voiced our deep concerns about the upcoming visit of the High Commissioner, Michelle Bachelet, to the People's Republic of China. Based on our understanding of the planned restrictions that she will be subjected to during the visit, we have no expectation that the PRC will grant the necessary access required to conduct a complete, unmanipulated assessment of the human rights environment in Xinjiang. We think it was a mistake to agree to a visit under these circumstances where the High Commissioner will not be granted the type of unhindered access, free and full access that would be required to do a complete assessment and to come back with a full picture of the atrocities, the crimes against humanity, and the genocide ongoing in Xinjiang.
Sorry, can I just say, in your response to Barbara's second question about whether the chain of command runs all the way up to the president of China, in your response, are you suggesting that it's hard for the U.S. to believe that President Xi or his inner circle, his top aides, did not specifically order war crimes, quote, crimes against humanity?
I don't believe I said war crimes.
Well, you said crimes against humanity.
Correct.
Crimes against humanity. Are you saying that you?
I believe the question was, are they aware of it?
Yeah, but you said
No,
it
I
would be
said that the chain
difficult.
of command runs up to the president.
Right. So
So is it the US, so is it the administration's position that President Xi or his inner circle have like specifically directed local authorities on the ground to commit crimes against humanity?
I believe what I said is that it would be hard for us to imagine that the type of systemic atrocities, crimes against humanity, and ongoing campaign of genocide would not, that the senior-most levels of the PRC government would be unaware of it.
No, well, not unaware, but that they ordered.
Again, I don't want to speak to specific potential crimes against humanity, specific acts, but what we're seeing is not a one-off occurrence. What we're seeing is a systemic campaign of repression, of crimes against humanity, of genocide.